Good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this McFile Thursday night. We are so grateful to have, we call them old friends, emphasis on the friend. We're great to have our return guest tonight, Sheriff Richard Mack, Constitutional Sheriffs Association. It's so good to see you, buddy. And I tell you, it's been a while. And this third party that set us up, we're so grateful for them. And thank you so much for coming back. I tell you, I got a lot of great comments about the interview last time we had you. And we were joking about the country before the show that we wish we could all go through a day without 1,600 breaking news stories and not sure which one to cover tonight. But I'm sure we got something to fill up a 30, 45-minute show with tonight. It's good to see you, Sheriff, and always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's always great to be with you. And like we were talking, let's make it a matter of routine that we meet once a month.
We are going to do that. Probably in the month we will do that. I promise. We got a mutual friend in Cheryl Todd, and they are precious people out in Arizona, and you've served your country and our country, and we really respect your service, Sheriff. I really mean that. I do want to ask you right off the bat, from your stance, we're going to get into some other things tonight, but this crackdown on crime, just figures just an hour ago, no homicides in Washington, D.C. in 7 days. Robberies are down 46%. Violent crime down 22%. Murders are down, I think, 30%. To go 7 days in our nation's capital that had a 27.1% crime rate. That was like double, triple than Los Angeles. I think that's a miracle of God. I think we need to have start a revival meeting on that tonight. I'm not being facetious about it, but seriously, that's big. But I attribute that to a president that understands that you cannot have a lawless country. You just can't have a lawless city. It's a capital city. And he's cleaning it up, and I've just got a gut that this is coming to a town near all of us tonight. If this left-wing loon bomb party does not want to rein in this crime, then there's a new sheriff in town, pardon the pun tonight, but he's going to clean it up. He's going to clean it up, and he's going to clean it up one way or the other. We can go kicking and screaming, or we can get with the program and realize that lawlessness will not prevail in this nation. It just can't. That's my thought. Go ahead.
Well, I'm astonished at the Democrats that would actually try to support keeping the crime rates the way they are, and even bragging. The crime rate's down. Well, that's like the store owner who raises the prices of his products 75%, and then gives everybody 40% off.
Yeah,
that's the same thing here. The crime in Washington, D.C. has gone up so exponentially lately. But the thing of it is, the last 35, 40 years, Washington, D.C. has been one of the worst crime-ridden cities in the world.
Correct.
And it was like the number one murder capital of America. Yeah, sorry to use the word capital, but yeah.
No, it is.
It was
Absolutely.
The capital of murder. Not necessarily capital of the United States, but capital of murder for like 7 years out of 10 years, just a decade ago. And it still has a horrible, horrible crime rate. And then the Democrats, of course, want to pretend that, no, lately the crime rate's been down. Well, you ignorant fool. It's still one of the worst in the country and worst in the world. And I got to tell you a personal story. I attended the FBI National Academy, which you probably know is in Quantico, Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Well, as sheriff, I got an invitation to this basic training that the FBI puts on for other law enforcement professionals throughout the world. For instance, my roommate was from Seoul, Korea. His name was Lee Bo-han. This is way back in 1991, the latter part of 91. And it's an 11-week course. It's right where the FBI recruits do their 16-week academy, and ours was 11. And I took off from the sheriff's office and went to this academy because it meant a lot to me to go to it. They do excellent training. And it was also the first time my father got to go to the FBI National Academy graduation for one of his sons, because my dad retired from the FBI back in 1975. And so it was very personally gratifying. But also while I was there, I met somebody in my class from Washington, D.C., and his name was Lieutenant Reggie Smith. And so we became very good friends. And I said, hey, Reg, is there any way I could go riding this Saturday night in the worst crime area of Washington, D.C.? And I said, where is that? And he said, that's Precinct 7. And he says, I will work it out so you can go. And I said, there's only one other question that bothers me. Can I carry a gun? I said, I don't have a gun here with me, but can you loan me a gun? He said, you can't have a gun. And I said, wow. I said, okay, I'm going to feel really vulnerable. He says, well, the sergeant you're going to be with will have a shotgun in his car. If he thinks you need to get a weapon, he'll give you that. But otherwise, you can't have a gun. And I said, okay, I still want to go. I'm telling you, Chris, it was, I don't know if you know what Code 3 means in law enforcement jingo. Code 3, it was a Code 3 night the entire night. And that means lights and siren.
Wow.
It was one horrible felony, stabbing, shooting, neighborhood fight, family fight. It was the whole night we were going Code 3 and high-speed pursuits. And I've said, this is a dadgum war zone. And it was then, and it is now. And I am so grateful to the good Lord who has inspired this leader named President Trump
Absolutely.
to get things rolling there. And if this doesn't send a message to the other cities to start taking care of your cities and getting rid of the crime that you guys have allowed to take place, and where the Democrat Party in last administration actually helped and brought in people on buses and planes from foreign countries so that we could get. So why did they do that? So that they could do two things: bolster their census rolls and bolster their Democratic voting rolls.
That's right.
That's it. That's why. And they were willing to sacrifice our country and commit treason against us to have that happen so they can have a monopoly on political power.
Oh, without a doubt. I agree wholeheartedly. I do want to ask you a question about the National Guard, and I'll just give you this, and this is not a... look, I believe President Trump has got to do what he's doing in D.C. with the National Guard. My only concern, and I'll just get your opinion about this, I hate to see the National Guard on the street. I know it has to be done. I blame the Democrats for this. I don't even blame President Trump for this. We shouldn't have got to this place that he has to do it. Do you think it going beyond D.C. is going to be a good idea? Do you think that's what's got to happen, or do you think the police chiefs around the country and the sheriffs, because Sheriff Mack, I don't know if people understand this, the sheriff has got more power in a state than most officials. I mean, they've got more power in a state on how to do things in a local county than even the mayor does.
Yeah. The two most powerful people in the state are the governor and the sheriff.
And the sheriff, exactly. And do you think the sheriffs are going to come around, and even these liberal ones that have no concern about, keeping their city safe? But do they see the handwriting on the wall to say, if we don't get this done ourselves, Trump's coming with the National Guard? Do you see them coming around and doing it right, or do you think that's what we're going to ultimately have is the National Guard in the cities across America?
Sorry, in the major cities, I don't think they're going to get it. And it's obvious that they're not getting it. Because once the mayor and the governor do not supply the sufficient remedy for the crime that's going on in their community, the sheriff should have been stepping in.
Exactly.
And the sheriff should have gone to the chief of police and should have said, I don't care what your mayor is saying or your governor. We've got to stop this crime, and we have the personnel to do it. And if we have to call out a posse, we can. And if we have to call out the National Guard, we can, because the governor has that authority, and the sheriff can call out the posse. And so he goes and discusses this with the chief, and the chief goes, you're right, we've got to take this, let's do it, and let's prevent the federal government from having to do it, which is going to make us all look bad. So the sheriffs could have stepped in Florida, in Portland.
Yes.
The sheriffs could have stepped in Seattle. The sheriffs could have stepped in Chicago and New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, and they didn't do it. And that really worries me, because they know they have the authority and the power to do it. and they're elected by everybody in that county. So even the people inside the city limits of Los Angeles vote for the sheriff.
That's so true.
Everyone.
That's a good point.
And so I would have liked to have seen that, because Trump should not be forced to do that. But I will tell you, there's a difference between Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles.
Very true.
Authority-wise, the sheriff, the president has a lot more authority in Washington, D.C. because of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Maybe we ought to read this real quickly to everybody.
Go ahead.
And it states this. This is Article 1, Section 8, where it tells the federal government, United States Congress, what authority they have. Okay? That's granted to them in the Constitution by the original states that form the federal government. That's a key historical fact. So he's talking to the federal government to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, in parentheses now, not exceeding 10 miles square, as made by session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States. So, Chris, if complete and what is it? Exclusive legislative authority in all cases belongs to the federal government within 10 miles square of the United States Capitol. Anything outside that belongs to those states that ceded the land over to the federal government to make the state the United States Capitol. So that's really a key component here. Donald Trump, being the CEO of the federal government, has complete authority over Washington, D.C. proper. Now, does he have that the same in Los Angeles? Over any federal building that was constitutionally allowed, yes. So they can move troops in there to protect the federal buildings, dockyards, arsenals, and military bases. So the federal courts in those cities, yes, that's under federal authority. But you would think that they would want to tell President Trump, the sheriff and chief of police, we got you covered. We're going to protect those. We're going to put an end to this. We're going to actually start making arrests. And we've talked to the county attorney and judges. Keep these people in there. Make them post bail, for God's sakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you see these states resisting this? Like, and again, I'm totally with you on this. Like, look, if this gets out of hand, and these federal buildings are being attacked, I say, look, send the Marines in, man. Get what you got to get done. I guess I'm just praying. Maybe this is wishful thinking. Maybe this is a naive Southerner hoping that common sense will kick in, which is at a premium these days in our country. But I'm praying these law enforcement people will see the light to say, we are losing our cities. And I think you sort of touched on it a while ago. These special interest groups, Sheriff, that are financing and profiting off of this lawlessness, I think we have got to start looking at that and going after the head of the snake, because somebody's making a whole lot of money for these illegals flowing over this border, for these drugs, this fentanyl, all of these things that are going on. And look, this D.C. Person that was fudging the crime rates and fudging things and numbers, somebody needs to be held accountable for this stuff. And I'm just hoping the sheriffs are going to step up. But I got this sense that once Trump brings the Washington, D.C. pattern out into the country, I agree what he's doing. I don't particularly like federal troops in my cities, but I do believe there's going to be a lot of resistance. Do you see a lot of resistance coming from these sheriffs?
The best sheriff organization right now is Florida. And they met, and a few of the sheriffs said, look, I'm Democrat. I'm not going to help Tom Homan. And then they all got a meeting right after that with Governor DeSantis. And they all came to a solidarity, unification, saying that we will all help with deportation. We want this criminal element out of Florida. And so all 67, regardless of party affiliation, signed off on it and agreed that they would all cooperate with deportation. And guess where it's really working? Florida. And if we would get 50, 60, 70, 80% of the sheriffs in this country to help with deportation, we would have this thing solved within the first year. And the sleeper cells, who do you think is best qualified to identify where the sleeper cells are with the international terrorists and the cartels? The sheriff is.
Exactly right.
And especially with that, he has a search and rescue squad out there that knows the area. He has other people in the community that keep their eyes and ears open. And this is the best and most effective way to do it. And some sheriffs are too timid to do it for some reason, and I'm not getting that. Maybe they're afraid of political ramifications. I don't know. But these men and women, the sheriffs of this country, and there's about 18 female sheriffs in America out of the 3,100, they need to get together and say, are we really in favor of law and order, or are we not?
It's true.
And are we going to get these human traffickers, cartels, drug dealers, and international terrorists out of our communities?
Absolutely, buddy.
And I'm afraid this is just a disaster for the Democrat Party if they do not.
Well, far be it from me to stop them from going off the cliff and it being a disaster. But what I am concerned about is it involves lives. People's lives are being killed and injured. And for that sake, look, I am not rooting against anybody that's trying to uphold the law right now, but I just wish they do their job. And again, I'm one of the most pro-police, pro-sheriff, pro-law enforcement people in the entire universe. I love, if I see a police officer in a restaurant, I see anybody out there with a uniform on, I walk up to them and I always shake their hand. I tell them to their face, look, thank you for your service, because I know it's hard out there. And it's gotten to the point that they're under such scrutiny, it ain't funny. But Sheriff, we're about to lose this country, man. I mean, look, me and we're both spiritual people, and I look at this also from a spiritual standpoint. If we don't get the nation in a place of being a law and order nation, the foundation is destroyed. And the Bible tells us that if the foundations be destroyed of any nation, if the foundations be destroyed, what are the people going to do? And look, law and order is what upholds our Constitution. It's what upholds our nation. It's been like that for next year be 250 years. And I've never seen a time like this that we have just thrown that in the trash. And I mean, and we hadn't talked in a long time. And I know since we talked, the election has taken place. And I do want to ask you about Tom Homan. You mentioned him. I tell you, I've never seen a border head do as good a job and it be so no nonsense, not caring what the media says and not caring what the podcasters say. He don't care what the Dems say. He don't care what Jasmine Crockett said. He don't care what Chuck Schumer says. It's just going out there and rounding up illegals. I heard today 400,000 illegals are basically, that's the number they believe that this administration will have not just taken off the streets. They have been deported. That's 500,000 of them in just 7 months. And I think that you can't ask for no better job than this. And you're in a border town. Have you seen a stark difference down there since he's taken over?
No, not really. Certainly they've been here, and the thing of it is, local police and sheriffs have been doing a pretty good job of it as well. The strong sheriffs at the border and near the southern border here in Arizona have been doing a pretty good job, despite the Biden administration and the idiot Democrat governor we have in there right now.
Yeah,
and
Katie
so
Hobbs.
It's just really hard, and I hate to call her that, but I'm sorry. I call a spade, and she really is a buffoon, and so I've said that about some Republicans as well, and I never cared one iota for John McCain.
No, I didn't either.
And he but he's passed on. God rest his soul, and I don't want to bemoan him and the horrible politician he was, but he was a horrible politician, and maybe I should say he was a great politician, but he was not a good person, and maybe that's a difference because. But I hate politics. That should be an honorable field, but the politicians have ruined it, and nobody trusts them, and yet they keep electing them every year.
Right.
So I don't know why we do this, or if it's just voter fraud. I think that's one of the biggest signs of voter fraud there is, that the American people keep reelecting Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and John McCain, and the others just like them. It's really a sad state of affairs, but I still believe, And I live in hope, and I love our country. And the best way to take back our country is what we're doing at the CSPOA. The sheriffs can not take back just the cities, but they can take back our country.
They can.
One county at a time.
So
and
true.
These sheriffs have got to understand. I wrote a book called The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And they've got to understand that they are. And they are the only person the American people can turn to when government becomes venile and oppressive and victimizes the people on a daily basis. That there's one person we can turn to in our own communities, and that's the sheriff. And he can provide the protection and the peace and the freedom that we all deserve when we were born in this great country.
Totally agree, man. I do want to ask you a question. You're sitting in Arizona. There is a 33-year-old Islamic Marxist that is about to take over New York City, the biggest city in America. I'm in Tennessee, man, and look, I'm paying attention to this because I don't think people quite understand the impact that this is going to have on the rest of the country. But do you believe he's going to follow through with this threat of basically stripping the police of every bit of authority, and it's going to turn New York City? New York City is already a crime haven of America. Right. Do you see that idea spreading, or do you think Trump can stop it from the White House, or is this something from the grassroots? And I'm glad you mentioned your organization, because after this I want you to talk about it a little bit more and some of the things y'all are doing. But does Zomar Mandami scare Richard Mack at what kind of stuff he's going to bring into New York City, and that may spread to other mayors? Because you got it going on in Minneapolis. I understand that there is somebody in Arizona, and I should have been better prepared for that tonight, but I understand that there's there's mayoral candidates out there just like Mandami, sort of popping up all over the nation. But it's a scary time, because I don't, like you said a while ago, I don't get these sheriffs, but Sheriff Mack, I don't get these voters, how they could even remotely believe this is good for not only New York City, but good for the country and good for them.
Well, it's the first thing that's absolutely crazy about this is that it's so un-American and so unconstitutional, because our self-government system of government, known as our constitutional republic, was designed specifically to prevent what he's planning to do.
That's exactly right.
And this is not, socialism and communism are not American governmental alternatives. They're not. We fought 4 wars to prevent communism from spreading throughout the world. We sacrificed the lives of millions of Americans to stop communism, and now we're embracing it with political dogma. I just find that so utterly astonishing and just so un-American. Communism is not an American alternative. It's what we have fought and died to stop. And it's what our Constitution was designed to prevent. And so we need to wake up for this. But I don't believe Mamdani can be successful at all. Because first, it's going to have a huge impact on businesses that are there. And they're going to start leaving. Then it's going to have a huge impact on tourism.
It's very true.
And tourists are going to stay away because it's going to be unsafe. And then the police are not going to be able to do their jobs, and they're going to leave. And they've already been leaving. And many of them have gone down to Florida, where Florida offered them huge bonuses to come and work down there. And they've done it. And so these liberal places, these extremist socialist cities of America and states are going to start dwindling, and the evidence of their subterfuge and this huge mistake and un-American idea is going to come and bite them all in the butt, and it's not going to work. And the people are going to uprise about it, and they're going to say, "You were wrong. Get out of our house. We've got to straighten this up." And look, I love New York. I think it's one of the most amazing cities in the world.
Me too.
That's an understatement. But we love to go there to go to a ball game, and we all my family loves the theater. We love Broadway, but we're not going back. And I don't trust what's going on there now. And 2 years ago, we took our granddaughter there, and we were a little nervous then, but now we're way nervous and we're not going back.
Yeah.
Until somebody straightens that place out.
Absolutely.
And that's not going to be Mom Donnie.
I'm going to remember these names because I'm going to say Richard Mack said that. Sheriff Richard Mack said that. Gave him that name. I like that. He's a loser. Look, he's just a loser to me. But I think what bothers me are the voters. And because, you know, when you get down to it, Sheriff, everything, I look at Jasmine Crockett in Texas. I look at the squad, the Minneapolis girl, the AOC, and Ilhan Omar, and Rashid Tlaib, and all of these, Eric Smallwell, Schumer, all of them, these demagogues. You mentioned Maxine Waters a while ago. Look, we can only blame them so much because they're being put back in power by the people. And I pray that the people come to their senses. I do want you to, you've not been with us in a while, and we've got somewhat of a new audience tonight. You're the head of the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officer Association, and you are doing some great things. You're trying to work with the Supreme Court and get the Supreme Court, get some cases before them and all. Tell us a little bit about your organization tonight and why it's so important for America and why we should support it, because I'm just tickled to have you tonight. I was telling you before the show, and I mean this, we are always grateful for law enforcement voices because y'all just bring such a perspective of things that people in the natural world out there, they may not understand the background of what's really going on with these police officers and the sheriffs. And this organization you have is a wonderful one, and it sort of makes a lot of awareness. But tell us what y'all are like doing right now and some of the things y'all are focused on.
All right. Well, yes, I became, while I was sheriff, I became the first sheriff in American history to launch a major lawsuit against the federal government. Mm-hmm. And that was back in the 90s. So that was President Bill Clinton. So I sued the Clintons and beat them at the U.S. Supreme Court. And the real miracle there is I lived to tell about it. You can't deny that miracle.
I will not deny that miracle. No.
Yeah, but you know the thing of it is, I should have never had to launch such a lawsuit.
I'll agree.
And if the other sheriffs would have said no, we could have nullified that thing and nipped it in the bud. But it was the Brady bill. And the federal government said, well, we don't have the manpower to enforce it, so let's just make a law saying the sheriffs of this country have to enforce this for us for free, without any negotiation, without any contract. And I already had a contract with the federal government. The Federal Bureau of Prisons and I had a contract together. And I would take their overflow inmates into my jail. And they paid us for it handsomely. And so if they don't have to contract with me and we don't have to negotiate, they don't have to negotiate with me on something like this, and all the sheriffs in the country, if they don't have to do that, why did they just order us to take the overflow inmates from the federal prison? Because they have no authority to do that, and then they think they can do whatever they want. They think we're a democracy, and as long as you get one person over the 50%, we can do whatever we want. And so that's the danger of democracy, and it becomes very dictatorial. And so I said no, and I was the only sheriff in the country doing it for like 6 weeks. So during that time, I thought, man, I told my wife, I said, I don't know about this. If I'm the only one, they're going to squash me like a pumpkin seed. They're going to do something to me. They're going to take me out. And then Sheriff Prince joined from Montana, and then 5 other sheriffs joined the lawsuit. So there were 7 of us, but that turned out there was only, what is that, 0.002%? But anyway, it was enough, because Prince and I are both in the Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco. We got overturned after we won at the district court. We got overturned there, but Romero from Louisiana and Coog from Texas were in the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, and they won on the exact same case. So we had 2 opposite appellate court rulings, and that guaranteed us a trip to the Supreme Court. And indeed, in December of '96, Sheriff Prince and I were at the United States Supreme Court, and then and it looked very much in our favor. After viewing the whole, and I was there, I saw the whole thing, but each side only gets 30 minutes, and you don't get to go over by 1 second. And then in June of 1997, the decision was released, and it was written by Justice Antonin Scalia. And it's the most powerful 10th Amendment state sovereignty case in the history of our country. And I put the highlights, I put all the best parts in this little booklet. And every citizen of America should have this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
It costs $3.
Good deal.
You should have this book in your cars, in your homes. Your kids should be reading this. It's very easy to understand. But folks, this is the only time in history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won, and it was done for sheriffs, by sheriffs, and the benefactor of this is the American people.
Absolutely.
And everybody, I'm telling you, folks, if you did anything, if you read anything in this country related to freedom and American ideals, you've got to get this booklet. It's $3 for one. You can get 3 for $5 and more on book orders. And you should be giving this to every local official. And ask the chief of police if he's supposed to follow Supreme Court decisions. Ask your sheriff, are you supposed to follow Supreme Court decisions? What about the Sheriff Mack case? It's actually the Prince Mack case, or Prince. It doesn't matter. I don't care whose name you use. Just make sure you get this and you ask public officials. If you don't know about that case, how are you going to be able to enforce it? And Scalia does something amazing. He quotes the Founding Fathers. He quotes the Federalist Papers. And it is a beautiful, amazing history lesson done by one of the best justices we've ever had, Antonin Scalia.
Absolutely. How close have we come to, and I'm going to phrase this question like this. Look, we are in a great moment of our history with President Trump in his second term. It may be that we go down 4 years from now and we look back on these 4 years. He had a lot of headwinds ahead of him in the first term, but he has got the headwinds behind him now. And he's got the will of the American people. He's got both houses, even though by narrow margins. Still got a lot of rhinos we got to deal with. But he's got the courts for the most part. And I think he's got something else. There is this air about him that is far more humble than he was the first time. And I think that has served him well. And he's got people around him that he can trust. He's got a cabinet he can trust. But I know that at some point, Sheriff, sadly, I hate to even think that far out and even fathom this, but if the left gets back in power, I do believe that they're going to unravel everything he's doing. And I think that this needs to be stated over and over, not just for the midterms next year, but we need to start campaigning for 28 right now. You do not want a Democrat in that White House ever again. Because if you do, we're going to become Washington, D.C. before President Trump started this crackdown on crime. I think the whole nation's headed for that. Am I too far off on that?
No, you're not, because AOC and Newsom are at the top of the list to enter the White House and take over. And I find that so astonishing.
I do too. I do too.
That goes back to what you were saying. Look what's going to happen to our country. And look what has been happening. So, yeah, I really pray that the Democrats continue to dig their own grave politically. And I hope that J.D. Vance or Governor DeSantis are ready to take over and move right in and hit the ground running. But you talked about President Trump's leadership. Look what he did today.
Yes.
He goes out to Washington, D.C. and meets the officers and meets the National Guard and is going riding along with one of the officers there. And you want to talk about courageous leadership. Donald Trump is it. And he just never ceases to amaze me. I don't agree with everything he's done. And I will tell him right now that number one on the list for the federal government right now has got to be defunding Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely, buddy. I'm with you
It
there.
is an evil organization, but more than that, we are being forced, the American people are being forced by law to pay $800 million to this organization, to a private organization that has nothing to do with our government and provides no government service, just the opposite, destroying life instead of protecting it. And every Christian is forced to pay for it.
So true.
This is astonishing. And then don't hire somebody else for the Federal Reserve. Abolish the Federal Reserve. Abolish their collection agency, the IRS, and let's get rid of these bullies and get them out of our government. And everyone needs to know that Article 1, Section 8 U.S. Constitution requires Congress to coin our money and regulate the value thereof. That's been abdicated to one man who's not elected and doesn't even work for the federal government.
That's interesting.
They work for the international banksters. And so that has got to happen. President Trump, please look at what we should be doing to save the American tax dollars and to save America from this horrible, evil organization, Planned Parenthood. I'm not talking about let's get rid of abortion, because I don't believe that's ever going to happen. We got too many people that are hell-bent on abortion. But we can stop this part.
The money.
And we can start taking care of our own families with this and not be forced to participate in this. Because I'm telling you right now, I will not continue to pay this money to Washington, D.C. if they continue to fund this evil organization.
I'm with you there, buddy.
And so I'm not going to. But I will say this, too. This is a huge one. The big, beautiful bill was 900 pages long. Mm-hmm. We expect the Democrats to do that and vote on legislation they've never read, and it's too voluminous. No bill should be over 50 pages long.
Totally agree.
This was absurd.
Totally agree.
And that was from the Democrat playbook. Let's never let that happen again. And I can understand a few tax dollars going up because our military's depleted and because of the crime that we've got to get out of our country.
Are you
But other than that, no more taxes and no more increased spending.
Are you a big fan of the tariffs? Do you believe that's going to lead to the abolishment of taxes? Because that's what the economists are saying that they believe could possibly happen, that we're getting right now money levels in. And I was just looking at some of the projections in 2 to 3 years or over 5 to 10 years. I mean, our national debt, Sheriff, is roughly 10 to 12 trillion. And, they're having projections out there that there is going to be at least $10 trillion brought in through these tariffs if Trump continues to put them on.
Tariffs.
And I think they're going to abdicate the tax system.
Tariffs are mentioned in the Constitution.
Yes.
Tariffs are in the Constitution, so it's a legitimate thing. But what the tariff was designed for was to keep the playing field even.
Exactly right.
And the last several years, they've undone that. Obama undid it, and Biden undid it, and they didn't care. For some reason, they didn't care because they're lining their pockets with taxpayer dollars and all the thievery going on in Washington, D.C. But tariffs are legitimate, and I hope that they can cancel the income tax because of that. But they are a legitimate way to run the economy, yes.
Interesting stuff. We're going to keep you about another 10 minutes. And, folks, if you got a question for the sheriff tonight, if you want to put it in the chat room, and it's now, he can't solve the Lindbergh baby controversy, and he can't tell you if the moonwalk was legitimate.
I can't tell you who shot JFK.
Can't tell you who shot JFK. That we're not going to ask him those questions. But
bringing up JFK, I will say this: JFK called the National Guard into Alabama back in 1962.
Yes, he did.
And he did the right thing. And I don't hear Democrats complaining about him.
No, they're never going to complain about doing it themselves. But I do want a couple of things. I just and I got so many things to ask you. We got to have you back because I always remember a million questions after you leave. Has it shocked you? Nothing shocks me with the left, but the level of support that the left has shown for the criminal. I think that is the absolute most hideous thing. And I don't know if it's by design with President Trump that he has literally led them off this cliff, that you've got CNN and the MSNBCs and the CBS, ABC literally crying on TV for rapists, murderers, drug dealers, traffickers, assaulters, murderers, that they are literally painting these people. I saw a report tonight, CNN headline, if you don't like the crime in D.C., just jump over the junkies. In other words, avoid the junkies. Like, okay, so their way of solving crime is for let the junkies keep destroying the city, but you just avoid them and go in another part of the town. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life, my daddy would say, my late father. But does it not just make you laugh that this is where we've gotten to on the left, that they're literally defending this stuff and they're doing it thinking it's right?
Yeah, to the first point of your question, they cannot survive this. There's no way that you can continue to support international terrorists being in our country, cartels now working with the international terrorists, setting up the sleeper cells, and the international human traffickers, all here in the United States, 350,000 to 400,000 children missing, and they're not missing. They got sold into sex slavery.
That's right.
And that's where those children are. Even worse, that the media never hardly brought up at all, is the parents in Latin America that were bringing their families up were selling some of their children to the cartels. They didn't have this kind of... You know what it costs to bring your family into America from Guatemala or Uruguay? It costs about $7,000 to $8,000. Where are these families going to get that money? They would have to be robbing banks or stealing it there, which for all of them to do that would be impossible. They're selling their children to the cartels, and then they get their money when they sell those children into sex slavery. And I don't know how frequent it happened, but I know it happens. And I'm surprised that this didn't get out a little bit more than that. Now, I lived in Latin America for a little while, and I speak pretty good Spanish, and my degree was in Latin American studies. I know the culture. I know what happens there. And I also know this, that the gross domestic product, or gross national product, GNP or GDP, of Mexico is about 10% of the entire GDP. Drugs.
Wow.
Drug trafficking is 10% of their GDP. They can't afford to do it. And the current president there, this lady, told President Trump she would not allow him to come in and take care of the cartels. Well, of course she can't. She takes orders from them.
Exactly.
It's part of their life there. And there's a lot of good people in Mexico. But politicians are controlled by the cartels.
Yes.
And the cartels now have set up businesses to front money to politicians. And they put up warehouses and all sorts of fabrica, manufacturing. They put all of those up, and then they funnel money through them to launder their money for legitimate reasons. That's what laundering money is. And they send that money to politicians. So a lot of politicians, especially in Arizona and along the border, they get donations through their campaigns and more from these cartels. And now the international terrorists are part of it. And folks, the intel is, and seriously, you really think that the cartels and international terrorists are teaming up together, play tiddlywinks?
No.
They're going to attack America.
Yes, they are.
And the intel is they're going to attack the grid and the water supply.
Are you concerned about that legitimately? Are you thinking that's
Yes,
actually going to happen? Because I've heard that. You're not the first person that's told me that.
I have my year supply of water and I have my year supply of food.
Okay. Let me ask you this.
Oh, and ammo and guns.
Yeah. Well, that is, look, that's a big left thing. You mentioned the cartels controlling Mexico. I'm going to ask you an interesting question. I probably already know the answer to this. Are they not controlling our country too? Are they not probably deep in D.C. and deep in some of these pockets of these politicians in D.C.?
No question. That's an obvious one. That's like when we open the borders. Do you think the international terrorists are going to come in with the illegal aliens? Of course they did. That was the first thing that happened. And that's all documented that they got here. Yes.
That's interesting. I know this is sort of maybe off topic, but I do want to get your opinion about it. They struck down the $400 and $500 million fine tonight. Letitia James, the Attorney General, of New York basically got slapped down really bad tonight. I mean, panel, that judge, the panel in New York basically told her it was just hideous. She broke the Eighth Amendment of excessive fines. Do you, and I'm tying this question into an overall arching question, with the Russiagate, with this thing with James, with Bragg, the lawfare that was launched against President Trump, the assassination attempt, I got to ask you, do you believe that we ever got the real truth out of Butler, Pennsylvania, from your perspective? I don't believe we did, and I'm just curious, if you had to dissect this as a law enforcement officer, what would be your red flag of that assassination attempt? Because I do not believe that kid was acting by himself. I just don't. And I don't think the guy at the golf course was acting by himself. There was two attempts, maybe three. And I'm just curious what you feel about all this and this lawfare. Are we going to see justice in any way to these things before this thing wraps up on this earth, at least?
The law enforcement professionals that I spoke to all said the same thing, and I said it before I even talked to them, but I wanted to make sure I was on the right page. Every single one of them said the errors were so egregious by the Secret Service that there's no other way to explain it other than somebody on the inside had to be in on it. They had to be in on it. It was just way too much of a joke investigation. Absolutely. Afterwards. Do you know that a week later that the FBI took down the barriers and allowed citizens, onlookers, tourists to come and literally walk up on the roof where the shooter was killed and murdered, and they were able to trample on evidence all over the place. And it was like, I said, what is the FBI doing? Selling tickets? All of it was too much of a joke. There's no way that you finish that and then allow people finish the investigation within 6 days, and now let tourists come up there and walk all over everything. There's no way that happens. And then there's no way that it happens with those ridiculous mistakes that were made, and that they didn't secure the perimeter within at least a mile radius of where Trump was going to be speaking. And then a kid is on the roof, and it actually got reported by citizens, and they still did nothing.
I'll agree. I will agree. I do want to ask you, how have you felt? We'll wrap it up on this because we're going to get you back next month, and we'll do this again. I'm so grateful to hear you can come every month and be with us. I really enjoy these discussions with you.
Same here.
Are you? How do you think Cash Patel and Pam Bondi, and I'll just throw Kristi Noem into this too? How confident are you in their ability to see all this to the end? Because it's going to take a lot of fortitude internally, but it's going to also take a lot of not being influenced by deep state voices in D.C., not to pursue these things all the way to the end. That's my biggest concern with any of them, is that they're going to talk a good talk to us, but we don't know the voices behind them that are whispering. Now, look, I think President Trump is letting the chains off and say, go do what you got to do. Jeanine Pirro is another one, the U.S. attorney. In your opinion, give me your feelings about those three in general, and how you feel about them and the job they've done so far, and do you think they've got the gas to take this to the end?
I really like Cash Patel. I think that they should have gotten rid of more FBI agents. I don't want FBI agents in there that are willing to take orders from whoever's in there. They're just willing to follow orders. We don't need any more Nuremberg officers in this country, especially in Washington, D.C. I hope that he's tough enough to do that. I like him. We endorsed him. CSPOA endorsed him when he was up for director of the FBI. Kristi Noem of the three is the weakest. She is borderline rhino. She was not a very good governor. Administratively, she was okay. But when it came to standing for rights, and especially the land rights of farmers, she stabbed the farmers in the back. Wow. And they contacted me. I went out there. I talked with some sheriffs about it. And she's she's weak. I would have never picked her. I know why she got picked, because she was extremely loyal to Trump. And then Pam Bondi, she supported red flag laws in Florida. And so she kind of goes back and forth, but she's got to go after, to me, she's got to go after more corrupt public officials.
I'll agree. Totally agree.
When they went after the judge in Judge Hanna in Wisconsin, I said, finally, we're going after the real criminals. And she needs to go after Mayorkas and Merrick Garland,
yes,
and a lot more others. And she needs to go after this investigation, who was really the president. And she needs to go after the corruption, because if we don't, it's going to embolden more corruption. And that's the biggest problem facing America today.
Totally agree.
Corruption
Absolutely.
and election fraud.
Totally
and she's got to clean up both.
Absolutely. I could not agree. You could not have worded that any better. And I don't even have to ask you this. I can, not that I'm psychic, but I can almost read Sheriff Richard Mack's mind on the answer to this question, that we need to get rid of mail-in ballots totally. Correct.
No, only if we would have started that 25 years ago.
Interesting. I got you.
That's when we should have started it. And we should have never gone there. And all of that has been a ploy for election fraud. And there's no worse election fraud than the illegal immigration we've had the last 4 years.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I've actually got a good question for you. One quick question out of Facebook tonight. Dennis Floyd, good to see you. He says, why can't we check the bank accounts of all politicians, regardless of party, to see who the crooks are? That's a pretty novel idea. I guarantee. What is the old saying goes? Follow the money. That's an interesting thing. I bet we'd find some interesting stuff if we could actually get a hold of the bank records, couldn't we?
They've already been reporting on that. They actually came out and said AOC really doesn't have much money in the bank. They reported that Bernie Sanders has millions in the bank. They reported that Barack Obama has millions in the bank. They know they have access to all of this. And whatever happened to the investigation that they were conducting against the Bidens?
It's a great point. It's a great question.
Towards the end of the election, whatever happened also to auditing the gold that's supposed to be in Fort Knox?
Yeah.
What happened to that? So
I'm grateful to hear you say that. Sandy Sutherland's up in the Boston area. I know that they've had some out of pocket crime, and she says, "Is there anything the sheriffs can do to stop it?" I know that I think what she's referring to were these kids on the bikes that were going up and down 95 like a bunch of hoodlums, and the Wu governor is so out of control. She needs to be in jail too, my opinion.
Yeah.
But can the sheriff step in and overrule that governor if she's not going to enforce these laws? And I guess her question is not a bad one, and it would go for any state. I think you've already alluded to this. The sheriffs can step in and say, if you're not going to enforce the state lawfulness, we'll do it locally. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, absolutely. And
great question.
The only trouble is there's about 4 states along the eastern seaboard that have taken or stolen power and authority away from the sheriffs.
Wow.
Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland hasn't. Delaware and Connecticut. Connecticut voted the office of sheriff out. There are no sheriffs in Connecticut anymore. And 30 years ago, they voted the office out of the state. Alaska and Hawaii don't have sheriffs. They did not initiate the office when they became part of the Union in 1959. So those are huge mistakes there. But the sheriff reigns supreme in all the rest of the states. And they've got to do so. The people in Connecticut, Delaware, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania have got to raise up and get the sheriff back into the position of being the CLEO, the chief law enforcement officer in every county. Folks, you've got to get involved in that. That's vital that you get involved in that. Otherwise, you're going to have the police state. And that's what Connecticut has now.
Very, very well said. And I had a question and it just lost my mind. That's what happens to you when you go. I'll probably remember it 3 seconds after I sign off. I'll remember my question about the sheriffs. Do you, and you make this quick and I'll let you go after this. As far as these governors, if you are Pam Bondi tonight, and again, this is going to have to come down to her, are you feeling that she is going to have what it takes to go after governors like Wu, Pritzker in Illinois, Johnson in Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, Gavin Newsom in California, Karen Bass in L.A., these sanctuary states, these sanctuary cities? Maybe this would be a good topic for us next time, because I really want to get your thought about the illegality of these things, and where the federal government has a right to go in, and if they're not going to uphold the law, they are criminally liable. Am I on safe ground saying that?
I've said that about sanctuary cities and states since they started that. That is against the law.
It is against the law.
And that's an easy investigation. But yes, they should be investigating every one of them.
I sure hope they are. And Geraldine, your question about Patel, what's he had to say on these attempts? I believe, and I'll wrap it up on this. I do believe a lot will depend on what we're not being told, whether this is going to get fixed. And what I mean by that, I know there's a lot of things, and I'm sure you'll agree with this as a law enforcement officer. There were times that you knew things, but you couldn't get in front of a camera and say to the John Q. public, because sometimes some of the John Q. public, it's none of their business what's going on behind the scenes.
Of course.
And do you think that that's some of this tonight, that maybe there are some things going on behind the scenes and we just need to be a little patient? Because I've been preaching that on the show. Just be patient. Justice is never quick. I'd rather them get it right, Sheriff, than to zap this out there for people because we're impatient and these criminals walk in the front door and walk right back out in 5 minutes because we rushed it and didn't do it right. I'll let you wrap us up on that thought.
Yeah, of course. And but afterwards, I believe totally in transparency, especially within government and Washington, D.C. in particular. But during an investigation, we say very little. And we can give updates and tell the press where we cannot jeopardize the investigation with the information that we cannot divulge at this time. Obviously, that's part of law enforcement. But afterwards, it better all come out.
Yeah.
And that you're investigating someone, I don't know if that has to remain a secret. Maybe sometimes. But they need to come out and they need to get these investigations in order. Because it's, like I said earlier, it's going to embolden more corruption. And just in closing, I wanted to tell everybody, we need your help. We need you on board. We have a peaceful and effective solution. We are solution-oriented. And you, the American people, you've got to be part of the solution. And taking back America county by county as constitutional counties with constitutional sheriffs is what must happen. And you have to be involved in it, or it's not going to work. The solution is behind us. It's not if we move forward. It's behind us. It's in our history. It's in Independence Hall, and it's in our Constitution. But you've got to be a part of this, folks. I mean, you've got to be a part of it. Please join us, CSPOA.org. Make a donation so we can get this thing funded that we're doing. And we'll do this. We'll make it. We'll make it. But we've got to start at the grassroots level in every county in this country.
We've been very proud to have you tonight, and I'm going to wrap it up on that. And listen, I'll see you next month. I'll be in touch with you. This has been a great interview, and I want to tell you I'm proud of what you're doing, and we're grateful to be part of it here on this network. And Sheriff, our prayers for you and your family tonight, and thank you for fighting for our nation like you have. God bless, friend.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
God bless.
Sheriff Richard Mack, everybody. Put some fire in that house. That is a great man right there. We've been honored to have him tonight, and we haven't had him in a long time, but we got him, and want to thank the individuals that set this up for us. It was sort of out of the blue, and I don't think they knew, the ones that did, that we had had him before. But when I saw his name pop up, they asked, would you like to have Sheriff Mack on your show? I said, of course I would. He was here before. Did y'all get something out of this tonight? This was good stuff, and we're grateful. We're grateful for him. And Wayne, your question, if you go to the website there, brother, CSPOA.org, that pamphlet is on there. You'll see it. You'll see the pamphlet. It's about the sovereignty and the Supreme Court. It's just a little booklet, and we'll probably order a few of those. I tell you what, it's good stuff tonight, folks. I mean, it really was good stuff. Y'all asked some good questions out there, and so forth. Now, we are not going to leave you at the altar tonight. It's 10 till 10. James Akers promised me that he would not fall asleep tonight on me, because we got a lot to talk with him about relating to Russia and Ukraine, what went down this past weekend, what's going on. We're going to talk about the Letitia James thing. It's going to be a late night McFiles. I won't fall asleep. It may not have to worry about James. I got off the show Tuesday night. I went took a break, and before I knew it, I opened my eyes. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, oops. I was supposed to be back on, but we are going to have a late show because I'm not as tired tonight. That trip Monday sort of took it out of me. But, man, it's just been a good night. I love these interviews, folks. I love folks like Sheriff Mack. These law enforcement people like this that have great insight to the law and the Constitution, that is right up my alley. I could interview people like that every week, every night, and not miss a beat. And I sure hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I want you to come back with me if you can. I will tell you what I'll do. It's 10 till 10. I'll go another 10 minutes. If you got any questions tonight, if you got any questions, anything that you'd like to say about the sheriff, or anything, whatever, good to see you. Good to see Harriet Hunter in the house tonight, Jesse. Good to see you, Rosemary. Thank you. Bless you. Peggy Cornish is in the house. And good to see Sandy Sutherland, Carol Smith. Cleo's in the house tonight. Hope you're feeling better, friend. And if you got any questions, anything, Geraldine, your question about do you know what Cash Patel has have to say about these attempts, I sort of alluded to it with the sheriff. I don't think that he's going to come out and publicly say anything right now. I hope they're investigating it. I hope this is one of those things that it's going on behind the scenes and nobody really is aware of. And I got to say this tonight, folks. I say it, very gingerly, very calmly. We've just got to be patient. I get impatient. Look, I wish some of this stuff, I'd like to see every one of these people walk. Look, I thought it was hilarious today. We're going to show you some video. It's been brutal. It has been brutal today on X. The response to the New York court throwing out that $500 million fine that Letitia James fraudulently hit President Trump with. It was excessive, but the whole case should have been thrown out. It's not just the fine. The whole case should have been thrown out. And I hope that somebody will do that. If I was President Trump, I'd sue. I'd sue the state for getting it, because she tried to destroy his business. Somebody's going to be facing a civil lawsuit. But I think what Trump's waiting for is to see if Pam Bondi and the Justice Department puts her backside in jail for this mortgage fraud. Wouldn't that be peachy? If you don't believe, folks, that Matthew 7:1 means what it says, judge not lest ye be judged. For in the same manner of judgment you judge somebody else in, that same judgment is coming back to you. She went after Trump, claiming he had committed mortgage fraud, okay, and tried to destroy him politically, which that didn't work. She tried to destroy his companies. That didn't work. He just took his companies out of New York, took them to Florida. He's flourishing. Certainly not on the level he was before he became president. But the Lord's blessed him. But now, lo and behold, Letitia James has been accused of that. And they raided her house yesterday. And I have no sympathy whatsoever. When you do stuff like that to others, and that noose gets pulled around your neck, this goes for everything, folks. You better watch how you do things, and you better be careful how you do to others, because I'm telling you, it's coming home to roost. It's coming home to roost. And as Don Jr. said tonight, she posted the tweet, or the post that she did 2 years ago when she wrote the amount $462,571 had Trump's face on it. Well, Don Jr. will show it to you tonight. He posted, make that zero. Make that zero. Because you're not getting anything. So anyway. Got any comments, questions? You got about 5 minutes. Any questions? Look, come over to Facebook tonight. See if the Facebook folks have anything. The update on James R. Dennis, only thing I've heard is that he is up and walking. That's all I know. We will keep you posted on that. I've been in touch with Tina, and she promised me she'd give me updates. She's posting things out on X. He's definitely improved since Tuesday night. It's a miracle of God, folks. Prayers have helped because that stroke was major. And as far as we know, right now, there's been no damage, permanent damage at least. I mean, I'm not trying to put stuff out there that I don't know to be true. I do know that she mentioned the fact they moved him to a regular room today. He's been in ICU since Tuesday night. And he remains in guarded condition, but overall, I would say that he has improved slightly. I'll just say it like that, not to get hopes up, and that's all I know. That's all I know. And once we know more, we will let you know. We're going to be coming back here in about an hour, and we got some video for you. James Akers will be on the phone with us tonight, if me and him both can stay awake. But I don't want to do anything in addition to Sheriff Mack's show, because this was an awesome interview, and we'll probably use this on the radio this week, tomorrow, or Monday, and so forth. We're grateful you've been with us tonight, and we ain't got to the good stuff yet. I'm going to lose the formal. When I have a guest like that, he's bigwig. We have to be respectable. When I get on them late night, midnight shows, we ain't got to be respectable. I'll put the cowboy hat on and put a polo on, and we'll just go to town. But come on back to be with us tonight. I do want to say it is good to see Cleo in the house. I know she has been very sick. And Chris Davis, your question about Cracker Barrel, what have I heard that's going on for Cracker Barrel? Chris, well, let me just say this, that if you go woke, you go broke. That's what I've heard. And it's a DEI woke decision to remove the man on the old barrel. It just reeks of the left. It just reeks of this woke behavior that, sometimes it's a symbol of oppression or a symbol of tyranny. A man on a barrel is somehow racist or sexist or some kind of stupidity like that. And the Cracker Barrel CEO is out there claiming this the greatest thing, that she's had the greatest response to it under the sun. Well, the only people that are rejoicing over that tonight are the left. I can tell you the people that restaurant serves are not happy with it. And what I've been reading about this remodeling thing, most people that have seen these remodeled stores can't stomach it. They just said it's horrible. If that's what Cracker Barrel wants to do, that's what Cracker Barrel can do. Knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. If you go woke, you go broke. If you go woke, you go broke. We'll talk about that with James Akers tonight. Got some other things we're going to share with you about him, and we'll talk about Letitia. We'll talk about the Cincinnati situation. By the way, the Cincinnati situation is crazy. They arrested the victim tonight. Do you realize that? They arrested the victim for harassment. The guy that got basically beat almost to death, and the woman that got pummeled in the face by these criminals and crooks. Well, the Cincinnati Police Department tonight arrested the victims, not the perpetrators. No words. We'll talk about that with James Akers, see what he has to say about that. By the way, Hulk Hogan's death is now in the news again tonight. There is suspicion that he had a surgery a few weeks before this death, and they're thinking that the doctor screwed up the surgery. Whenever the surgery was, I say it was a few weeks, it may have been a few months, but there is very serious questions tonight about why Hulk Hogan died. We'll follow that one. I'm not going to have a lot of info on that tonight, but we will follow that into next week. It'll be around. All these stories will be around. All righty. I'm going to let you go now. I'll be back, and I hope you've had a good night with us. Put some fire in that house for Sheriff Richard Mack. I tell you, I enjoy guests like him, and it was so good to have him back tonight. He did a great job, didn't he? I thought he did a wonderful job. We appreciate him. We appreciate you for being with us on this Thursday night, and we shall return, I promise. McDonald will drink a Coke, not sit down and go to bed, fall asleep. But But we'll be back. We got more to talk about tonight. And one other reason we won't be here tomorrow night, because I've got some final summer time with my grandkids tomorrow night that I am going to share with them. And if you will allow me to do that, the fall is here after this. We got Labor Day rapidly approaching, and this will be the last time I'll get to do something with them this summer before the school season kicks in. So we're going to have some family time tomorrow night, but we'll be in touch. We'll probably do a Facebook Live from somewhere like we did last week, and we appreciate all you being with us on the McFiles. We really do, folks. We appreciate this audience. We love you all, and we hope you're enjoying the shows. I tell you, we've had some great guests last few weeks, haven't we? It's been good stuff, and I appreciate Richard Mack, Sheriff Richard Mack, respectfully tonight, and what he has brought to the country. May the Lord bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. See you back here in an hour, okay? Or so.